Hello, Red Ryu here for another Games and Talk, and little annoyed because I just did one recorded, but then I didn't realize my mic was muted. So I just got an 8.5 on Canon, like doing on a random, and I'm really angry it did not end that way. So let's try another. We got Falco. I can do Falco. So the question last... At least the one that didn't get recorded, I was talking about things I liked, but other people hated, and things I hated, but other people liked. Gonna change the topic a little bit, because I don't think I can do that again a second time. So, I want to talk about the deprivation of games in terms of value, and maybe what that means to people. So, for example, let's say you wanted to buy a new copy of Super Mario Brothers, the first one. It blew up the bomb. That's over time. Because I want you to read about how emulators and how the kind of morality of like using one, and kind of maybe how game developers should try to actively compete against them. I had a problem with that video, and a slight one where he admitted even in his video it was a subjective, it's a subjective, like how much do you value paying price? That's determined by the market. And while he personally valued that nothing, he said, was worth the money nothing was worth. Because the reason he brought up this video is because Nintendo's releasing their NES kind of retro pack that contains like around, what was it? It was like 50 games, priced at like $60, so it's like about just a bit under like $2 per game. And he was saying, but is that, you know, a lot of NES games are crap, it's not worth paying $50 for all these. Well, I would ask the question, why? Like, what makes them, like, not worth the value? And the thing is, well, you know, games over time become less worth the value they have. And I disagreed, but mostly from the sense of, like, how can you really determine value? Because things get re-released games get re-released, movies get re-released, you know. Disney's re-released their classics. I'm not paying attention. Disney's re-released their classics over the years, multiple times. I thought I was gonna avoid that. And I died so early. What I'm saying is, he was arguing that because over time, games lose value because they're older and you can, you know, emulate them easier, along with how many times they're re-released. Now I ask, is that really a fair thing to say? Because you had a collection that was charging $2 per game, I'd say for NES games, and that's probably a deal because you get to play 50 games, all retro, of course. But I found it interesting he was arguing that, and I'm kind of like one of the few people who really asked the question, given there's a lot of systems that have had what I call shovelware, which is really just like crap games shoveled out because it's a popular system, and because of that, you're really gonna see a lot of people trying to buy into that. Because, you know, popular system, everyone's gonna buy into it. Now I ask, is that really fair? Because if you really think about it, things get released all the time, and they should charge value because they own the game. You're technically stealing off it, and his argument is like, well, the only reason you don't want to do it is because it's wrong. And it's like, yeah, damn straight. And it's like, well, then he tried to argue that the gaming industry should try and compete with this. That we should all be trying to compete against, like, you know, I mean, with that is really the fact that you're trying to argue we should not be trying to buy free games. Like, they're free. When you emulate them, every game you get is free. Because you're basically, like, taking them, you're emulating them, and you're stealing them. And he's arguing, well, why would you not want to... Why do that? And I'm asking, well, yeah, it's illegal for one. You're not going to... And there's like, well, there's people who pirate all the time. Yes, and... There are people who always pirate. There's going to be pirates, and there's going to be people who pirate everything. Hell, I can name hundreds of anime I pirated. Like, Crunchyroll is one of the few ones I've recently been doing, and I've been watching just off that. But to be honest, there's a lot of anime I can't straight up watch without pirating, and while I would not do a review on something like that, or actually make some big topic outside of me watching it via pirating, I will say I will support people that try to actually go out of their way to, you know, bring those anime out here. Like, you know, I can watch Cardcaptor Sakura dub, the Cardcaptor Sakura dub on Crunchyroll. I will support that. That's something I've wanted to watch and see. And if they're going to actually give me a way to watch that, then I'd love to actually be able to support, like, subjects like that, or watching things like that. Or another example, Mamoru Hosoda dubbed over, but also limitedly release it in theaters. I'm willing to pay money to go to theaters and so really, I don't think the emulation argument holds up, because we're talking about that it's okay to steal. Well, in the end, he actually said, I'm not saying emulators are okay, but he's arguing that are the value of these games really what they are? And I'm okay with that kind of topic, like asking if these games actually are the value that they are, given how long ago they've been released, the distance of time and all that. Like, you know, that's a legitimate topic. Like, you know, do you actually think that these games should be? And if so, how do you handle emulation in topics like that? Like, okay, it's emulation. Well, the fact is, one, I really don't see how you can, like, beat emulation, because emulation in the end it's free. You can get it it's free, convenient, but it's like there's other forms of convenience too with emulation. Not really emulate. Like, the fact of emulation, it's convenient. Like, you really don't have to pay anything. You can just do what, you know, you can get it whenever you want, wherever you want, on any system you want, and in an instant. And I can see value in trying to compete against that. However, in the end of the day, it doesn't change the fact that you're trying to compete against stealing. And wow, that's bigger than I thought it would be. We're trying to compete against basically stealing. You're competing against basically free everything. So how do you compete against that? You're competing against something being given for free. The only other way you can compete against that is literally paying people money to buy your games. Like, how do you... Now, to get people to actually want to go out and buy a game despite that, yeah, I can see value in that. Instead of pirating, they actually want to go out and buy your game. Alright, I can see value in that. But at the same time, I don't know if we should be using stealing, what I would equate as stealing, as really the counterpoint for what gaming developers should be doing instead. You know what? Like, what I'm trying to say is, I don't know if, like, using the counterpoint of stealing should really be what we're trying to do in order to make this argument. And that's, what do I say really to that? like, I really don't know what I can say other than, like he's arguing, like, well, the only reason I don't do it is because it's wrong. And it's like, well, yeah, that's exactly why you don't do it. It's illegal. Like, I don't know why this is maybe why the argument loses me, is his argument against it was stealing is wrong. And that's the only reason we don't do it. And it's like, yeah. Oh, no, she got it. But, like, I don't know why it's an argument. Like, I feel like it's an argument that kind of loses me, because it's like, well, the only reason you're against it is because it's illegal in the first place. It's like, that's exactly why I'm against it, because it's not legal. I'm not going to support, like, I'm going to emulate and do that, for me personally, if I ever stream that, is if I actually own a copy of the game. I'm not going to... That's the only way I'm going to be doing it, because it's the only way I can really stream it productively and well. Now, I do see merit in the argument of maybe trying to use... Hey, gaming developers should try and compete with that, because if people are willing to do this, then they should go out of their way to try and give people incentive to not, like, pirate their games, but instead buy them. Okay, fair enough. Except, when I look at things like software sales for, like, Nintendo recently, it's really, well, software sales have been pretty much the same as they have been last year. The fact remains, software sales are kind of where Nintendo's, like, killing it right now. And you're trying to argue that, you know, they should be trying to compete with something that they actually are doing pretty well against. Could they potentially do better with this? Oh yes, they could. But you're still coming down to the argument of, you're trying to fight piracy, you're trying to give reasons not to pirate by offering more. Which, okay, I see merit to it. I see merit that we want to compete against piracy. But at the end of the day, your argument at the end of the day is still pirating is better than not. And wow, they wait for the air dodge. Like, we should pirate, because pirating actually... Because pirating at the end of the day actually is what gives us value. But I'm like, but yes it does, but... And yes, not everyone who pirates is going to get caught. No, you know, repercussions from it really... I know people are like, well, repercussions don't actually exist. And I'm like, they actually do. Not as common as they used to be. But repercussions still exist. And that's really where my counterpoint is the fact that why are we arguing with your argument against piracy is the fact that people are gonna just like it's just wrong, and it's like be a reason. I mean, yeah, people are gonna do wrong things, like stuff like that. And I've known I know people who have done piracy themselves. Why are we really holding this as some kind of, like, aspiration that we gotta fight against piracy? Like, that's our aspiration against piracy, is that we're gonna fight piracy, which is free, but we're trying to fight something that's illegal in the first place. Like, I see some merit to it, but at the end of the day, it loses me because it's the fact that you're trying to say, well, you know, we're trying to fight against the fact it's illegal because we overprice, like, older games. And it's like, I don't agree. I mean, especially when you look at the shovelware on Steam, where, like, you have so many scam stories, like Darklight. What is it? Not Darklight, what is it called? That game where... That unfinished game that got released on Steam where there were no finished levels whatsoever. Journey of the Light, that's it, Journey of the Light. Temper Tantrum, anything by, what is that, anything by, that gaming company that made the Slaughter Grounds. I forget what their name was, offhand at least. But Digital Homicide, that's their name. Digital Homicide. Where it's like, but you're asking people to compete against that. I just don't see it working. Not to the degree you want it to. Now, I will say, he doesn't think that at least that NES games are worth maybe even $1. That instead you should like do retro remakes and like give a reason for a remake rather than just reporting it. I see merit to that a little bit. It's the same way how Disney does their whole you know, we're gonna release this movie, games on it and stuff. So maybe that's the thing he's going for. I do see merit to that, but I don't know. I see re-releases being perfectly fine, especially for games when the game itself is good enough. So that kind of argument loses me. But at least, at the end of the day, I at least see merit to what he's arguing, and I see what he's saying, and how it has value to kind of like what could happen in the future. So, that's, if I were to say anything, the Jimquisition, I've disagreed with him on a number of videos, like Star Fox Zero. Well, no, I think he had even Star Fox Zero, I think he had a good point, where I thought the biggest problem with Star Fox Zero, and while it's one of my second favorite, if not one of my favorite Star Fox games, is the fact that it forced motion controls on people. And really, I don't disagree with people. I don't disagree with that point. But I think if it's worth learning, it's a great experience. I had a wonderful experience doing it. Did the game sell well? No. It did not sell as well as they probably wanted to. And really, we're left with the fact that there's just a lot of things that people just wanted to see from it, and they kind of went minimalistic on it, which is maybe my fanboy showing, where I was okay with the game being what it was. Like, I was okay with the basic nature of what it released, what it had on it, but the fact he went on a diatribe to call the game a 2 out of 10 on motion controls alone, that... I am kind of going to my old argument right now, like where you disagree with people. But in general, I agree with pretty much everything Jimquisition says, generally. The arguments he brings up, the issues that he brings up, especially like, you know, like, the biggest thing I have a problem with is the lack of quality control on Steam. Because that's my biggest problem with Steam right now, is the fact that there's no quality control on there. And that's something I strongly agree with him on. Steam needs quality control, and there's none. Oof, killed me off a grab. Alright, I guess I get one try at Master Core, but maybe that's me coming back to my old argument, but trying to bring something new to it. I'm gonna leave that there and see if it actually sticks this time. Because last time I did it with Ganon, but in general, maybe it's the fact that I understood his arguments, and I agreed on many points. Like, for the fact that maybe you should try and add more to a re-release to actually add value to it. And the subject of emulation, like, it's just... I disagreed on points. And I actually looked at the comment section, I thought there was some very little validity, like, in terms of rare to find games, that they, like, I can't find it, and it's so expensive, I can't afford to buy that. That at least had some... that resonated with me a little bit, because I'm like, video games really should not be $15,000, you know? like, they should be affordable. Like, anyone should be able to buy a video game, no problem. And I'm okay with, like, cheaper games. Yeah, there's less value in that compared to a AAA title, but, like, I'm playing Smash Brothers right now. But at least, like, and I would consider Smash Brothers a AAA title for obvious reasons. But it doesn't change the fact that not everyone can afford that necessarily. You gotta add value to people. Why do people want to buy your game? Why should they? And with something like a remake of that, well, if there's like 50 remakes of it, like let's say Sonic the Hedgehog 1, which is something I swear is like been remade 50 times, and yet a game I think is better than Sonic 2 has been remade probably less than that. But at the same time, it's like, how do you add value to that? Oh, am I gonna really do this like better than like other characters? Wow, I actually did that way better than I did with like, that's an 8.0. So good job, Falco. You did better than even freaking Peach, and I play her more. But yeah, the value of $1, it's really a hard thing to kind of like come across. Like, how much do you value for a game? How much value should it have after the fact? Because like the best thing I could think of offhand would be I go to Mega Media Exchange, and I've seen they have Mega Man X8 for like $120, and it's like
the hell worth so much?
And really, there's the only one reason why it's worth so much. People trying to pirate and steal that instead of buying it. That's maybe a case where it's like, well, maybe a re-release would actually do you some good. You could actually get some players would buy it, and you would have generally a better audience trying to afford something like that. I'm kind of rambling at this point about like this topic, but it really was one I could agree I wanted to agree with, but there were some points that just kind of flew over me. I was like, but at the end of the day, it doesn't change the fact that the fact it's wrong is still valid. Like, maybe what you're trying to say is no one's gonna actually get caught, which I do think he avoided a little bit, but at the same time, it's really what I gotta say for a Steam game. Like, I have more problems with Nintendo. Really has not been a company that's irked me outside of the fact that I'm worried of us getting a new Star Fox game because Star Fox Zero did not do well, and I'm hoping they realize a lot of it's due ripping on the Wii U at the end of its lifespan, and a bunch of other issues that might have actually actually made it not work so well. Because the issue with the Wii U, at least at this point, is not hardware, it's software. But again, the NX is literally right around the corner, so that's probably why you're not seeing anything. So, man, I'm making a lot of Nintendo topics recently. Alright, I should make another gaming topic, but next time not. I gotta think, what would I want to make next time? I'm not sure. I gotta think like what I'm doing like this like a vlog ramble, which is fine. This is how I want to kind of like ramble. I like to do it while playing games. No, I barely missed it. I have to say, the effort they took to make these pictures in game, like, and it's like, oh, it's cheap, there's these in-game models. That, to get the perfect moment, to get like a shot like that as a picture, that takes actually a lot of effort. So that's all I got about the topic of like game value over time, and maybe how I agreed, but yet kind of disagreed with Jim Quisition on the video. I gotta think of some not Nintendo related that I can actually talk about. I'll figure it out next time. Until next